Hello and welcome. My name's Marie and this is my yarn journey. Hope you are well and you've had a good week. I'm here for a usual Friday knit chat to update you on what I've been working on this week. If you want any ways to get in touch with me at all the details will be down in the description box, along with any pattern names for patterns that I have mentioned in this episode. I have 2 finished objects, I have 1 work in progress, and then I want to talk to you about plans. Well, let me start at the beginning. If you watched last week's Friday Knit Chat, you will know that I was inspired by Memily Makes, and I was inspired by her pairing up in bags yarn and patterns. I have all my patterns digitally, so last week what I did was I'd sorted through a few of the next projects that I want to cast on, and I already have a lot of my yarns, sweater quantities, that type, in Ziploc bags or clear bags so I can see them in the boxes in my yarn storage cupboard. And I decided that what she was doing was quite inspirational. It was quite nice to look in and think, oh, which of these shall I cast on? So I wanted to do something similar, and last week I think I showed you a few of those, and I had paired up some of them into bags, and I put them into one of the grey tubs that I've got in my cupboard. I think there was about 6 projects, maybe 8, that I'd put into these bags. And what I've done since I last recorded is actually instead of putting the patterns in there, because all my patterns are digital, I have my iPad and I do them on there, I actually printed off little pictures to remind me what they were for. And yeah, I found that very, very enjoyable to do. So because of that, this week I decided to dive in to some of the boxes that I hadn't gotten around to and try and pair them up to patterns. Now I would say at the moment about 75% of my yarn that isn't a single skein has been paired up to projects, which is pretty exciting. I think I've got 22 projects. What I thought is at the end of the video I will actually just run through quickly and pop up images on the side. What I've done is I've rearranged all my queue on Ravelry, so I'll go through that with you nearer to the end of the video once I've talked about my knitting this week, and then I can show you what's coming up, some of which I've already mentioned, some I haven't, some I've changed my mind on what I'm pairing yarn for patterns, and I'm trying to be creative now with those last few bits of yarn that might be more tricky to pair to projects, as it were. So now I'm going to talk to you about what I'm wearing, and this is my first finished object. This is the Kutik, and this is by a Ukrainian designer whose name I'll put on screen because I always forget, or I don't know how to pronounce her name properly. And this is done in Ula and Leah yarn, which is 85% sheep wool and 15% cashmere. Thoroughly enjoyed the process of knitting this, being that it does look to be a very plain garment. It's very involved until you get to joining under the arms. There's quite a lot to concentrate on. A lot of details and thought has gone into all the shaping, and I think overall it's a wonderful fit on me. I'm really pleased with it. I've done bust darts, like I say, the shaping is very detailed. It's not, there's no straight lines anywhere, it's all curved and shaped to your body, and I think the fit on me is absolutely wonderful. Especially it fits me lovely across the top of the shoulders, top of the arms, and yeah, I'm just overall very, very pleased. The only couple of things that I would say is that I'm fast realising, and it's the second time I've done this, the collar is a folded over collar, and so is the hem and the finishing on the end of the sleeves. Now, I absolutely adore the way you do the chain for this. It's quite straight, quite simple to do if you watch the video, and she has wonderful video tutorials with this pattern. And I do like the way it lands on the edge there, and I hope you can see that. It's a really polished effect, but what I don't like is the bulkiness. I wish there was, and I suppose that it's similar to doing a standard bind off, isn't it, the way that it finished there, but I think this looks much more crisp. But I'm fast realising that I don't like the bulkiness of folded over hems or cuffs, and there's a distinct line. Now, the way that she gets to do it in the pattern, I haven't done it. It's a modification that I've made because I couldn't get the right tension. The way that she gets you to attach your fabric on the inside is by using a crochet hook, and then you do a chain on the outside where you're joining it underneath, and that means that you wouldn't see the distinct line there where it's been sewn down, and you wouldn't notice maybe the bulkiness as much. But yeah, although I love the polished finish on this, I think I possibly would have preferred an I-cord or a standard bind off, but then it may have cinched in because my standard bind off can be quite tight. So, and again, I don't really like the bulkiness of the collar at the top here. You should have done the chain here as well around the collar, and it does look beautiful with the crochet chain, but my tension for the crochet just made it look very uneven, so I didn't want to continue with that, so I decided to sew it down. I'm going to make this again, as I've mentioned, but I am going to make a summer version, and I am going to do, probably I'm thinking of doing a twisted rib finish and doing the sleeves, so the end just where you split for the body, and just doing a little bit of ribbing, very few rows. I just think I will find it much nicer and more pleasant to wear with the twisted rib finishing and a single layer of the finishings, not the double layer. But that's just a personal preference thing. I'd highly recommend this pattern. Really pleased with how it fits me, how it turned out, so I would do the same size again. And I hope that other people will give this pattern a go, because I do think that a lot of thought has gone into making this garment fit really well. Very pleased with this. I'm glad it's off the needles. I've been itching, and I don't know how I've stopped myself casting off all these new things after I've reunited my love for my stash this week. So yeah, I don't think there's anything more to say about this garment. It was quite a straightforward process. There's lots of information in the thing. The only thing that I would say, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this last week, is it'd be really helpful if the tutorial had been in English. The translations weren't very good on YouTube, and a few of the instructions I found it difficult to understand, but the actual way that you do the this chain is pretty straightforward for the ends, and I think that does look neat. I just wish there wasn't the bulkiness next to that, but otherwise I think this is a really successful project, because I have had a few summer t-shirts or this style of top where the more fitted ones, they haven't fitted me very well, so I'm really pleased with the end result of this garment. Again, I just hope it softens a bit more over time, and if I was to do it again, I'd just do the different finishings and see if I prefer that. And the second finished object this week is my very funky socks for the funky February sock along that is being hosted by Cozy Crab and Yarn and Glitter. And yeah, I'm happy with these, but but they didn't quite turn out the way I was expecting. This is a free pattern by Laura Moratz, and it's what was I going to say then? And she does her version, sorry, in a very neutral palette. But as soon as I saw this pattern, I decided I wanted to do a pair of Christmas socks. And I had a box that I got from Tree Yarncraft, and it was I think 6 minis, and it was a Christmas Eve box I got a couple of years ago. And I just thought it would make a perfect pair of socks, and this pattern matched up really, really well. Only issue I had here with this pattern was I didn't do my I didn't check my yarn properly before I started. So in the original pattern, the cuff, the heel, and all the ribbed stripes in between the blocks of colour are done in the same colour. And when I started these, I thought I would do them all in the red, not thinking that I wouldn't have enough. The overall effect is there. I definitely think I've hit the brief, but I was a little bit disappointed when I got to this point and I realised that I only had a little scrap of yarn of the red left and I wasn't going to be able to continue the stripes. I also made a mistake with one of my stripes. I did one row too many with the twisted rib. But overall, I think these have been really successful. They have been blocked. They do fit me very well. Now, if you've been here for a while, you'll know my saga with heels. This is a heel flap and gusset. And I have done a 64 stitch sock because that's what I'm doing at the moment, and I'm trying to perfect my heels. The Flegel heel, absolutely love knitting that because I like knitting socks 2 at a time, and that heel is very simple. But what I've found with every pair of the socks I've made with the Flegel heel is they fall down on me. They get baggy instantly when I'm wearing them, and I just don't like the feel of that on my feet. So unfortunately, as much as I love that heel, I definitely need to change what heel I'm doing. So it's back to the heel flap and gusset with these. Fits me everywhere pretty well, apart from the part here across the top of my foot. So I realised that I need to get the depth of my heel right so the sock fits me well. And I've been following Summer Lee's patterns for quite some time, and she does her sock heels to a measurement, which is great if your row gauge is off. But for myself and finding out a recipe that I can use going forward for my heel to make it fit me well, and for me to be able to finally get the sock recipe for me that I like, I knew I needed to start doing numbers of rows so that I could count those rows on my heel, and then I could replicate it going forward in whatever patterns I was doing that has a heel flap and gusset. So I did 36 rows instead of the 32, and I'm pretty pleased with how it's turned out. And after blocking, they still fit me pretty well, so I'm glad of that. But yes, I think I've met the brief for the February sock along. I do plan to cast on another pair of socks, but I don't think they'll be finished anytime soon, but I've just got them ready because I do always want to have a pair on. These are going to go in my box of socks because they're a Christmas pair. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but this pattern is a free one, so if you fancy giving it a go. I'm not sure I'd do this pattern again. It's an okay pattern. Oh, the other thing was I did actually do I think this would be called a rounded toe, and I think it might be the first time I've done it, but I could be just forgetting that. But I'm yet to see what I think of the fit of this toe on me and how it is to wear. I think unfortunately that the ribbing on these, I think on the foot would be somewhat annoying to people with sensory issues because you do have them under your foot. Now, under the foot, I haven't worn these yet, but I've tried them on and walked a bit in them to see the fit of the toe. And it seems like a good fit, but I would say that the only place on these socks that this twisted rib might bother me, but I don't know yet, is at the edge of the toe here. So, and also as well, you probably might have to take, if you had really small feet, one of these stripes out on the foot. It's not as easy to modify because you've got a set number of rows between. But if you know your own sock recipe row by row, then you probably just need to divide the stripes by that number, if you get what I'm saying. But yeah, it's a free pattern, so if you fancy doing something a bit different and don't want to splash out buying a pattern, then it's certainly worth giving this one a go. And if you haven't done socks before, it's a good place to start with a free sock pattern. Not much more to say about that. They're going to go into my box of socks, and I will then have, I think, 3 pairs in there so far. Obviously, a couple of the pairs that I've made, I have worn my DK ones. Now, what should I talk about next? I think actually, because we're on with the socks, I will just quickly go out of sync, out of order, and just show you the yarn that I've picked out for my next pair of socks and let you know the pattern that I'm going to be doing. I will put a picture up on the side of the pattern. I've decided to do this yarn, which is... I will put the name on the screen because I don't know where the tag went. It went astray, but I'm sure this is got some bamboo in it. I should have had my iPad open really, because I knew I was going to be needing to tell you quite a few things off Ravelry. So Vanilla is the New Black is a heel construction that I've been wanting to try for a while. It's supposed to be good if you need a bit more room in the instep, and this is the yarn that I'm going to use for it. I'm going to do them 2 at a time. I'm just finding that if they're 2 at a time, I end up with a pair at the end and not one sock languishing. So I am going to continue with that. And yeah, I just wanted to show you this. I don't know when I'm going to be casting them on. It's highly unlikely that I'll have them finished for the end of the sock long, which is the end of February. So yeah, if you do want to join in, there's still time. They're doing prizes, and yeah, we've got a few weeks yet, so you could take part. I have taken a photo of these, but I've still not gotten round to posting them up on Instagram, but I will do that over the weekend. And then that's my entry into the Cal. Who'd have thought knitting socks would have been so difficult to get right? But that seems to be a running theme at the moment. Then I think it's a running theme. I suppose it's always in the knitting world, isn't it, really? It is constantly tweaking our garments and fit to make sure that we are getting our garments as nice as we can and fitting in a way that we enjoy. Right, so this is a blast from the past, it feels like, but I did only cast it on at Christmas, so it's not that old of a project, but I just feel like I haven't worked on it for quite some time, even though it's only been a couple of weeks, I think. And this is my November jacket by Petite Knit, and I am doing this in Sanders Garn. Is it Peer Gynt? Yeah, Peer Gynt. And the colour is 6325. It is a lovely mild blue colour. This is yarn my dad got me for Christmas. Now, it's hard to show because I've got it all on one cable. And this is what I tend to do when you have to, you know, do lots of sections. I just find it easier to have a long cable, have everything on the same cable, and slip them round if I need to work on a different section. I'm working on the left front now, and I'm not too far off. I think when I last counted, I had 74 rows on the other front. So, well, not 74 rows, 74 little bumps, because obviously each row in brioche, which this is, equals 2 normal rows of knitting, blah, blah, blah. It's a double knit button band. The shaping on the back looks absolutely lovely. I think the next stage, once I've got the front finished, I will be joining under the arms and then working on the body section. I will put a picture on the screen to remind you of what this pattern looks like. There's a slight, I feel it's quite rustic, this yarn, bit of, not rustic, but slight bit of a prickle, I think. But it feels as though it's going to be really sturdy. For anyone who's not done brioche, it does take a bit of getting used to, and I think it's good to do the one colour first, because I started off trying to do 2 colour brioche and I had 2 heavily variegated yarns, so it was very hard to see which strand was which yarn. I just made a bad choice with colours, and it was for a different project. But doing it in this, and I highly recommend, obviously you should swatch anyway, but we don't always do that, do we? But I did swatch for this, gave me a good chance to practice it, and in doing the swatch and watching Stephen West's fantastic tutorial, the way he explained it for some reason just clicked with me. And yeah, it does just feel quite intuitive, like doing rib. The only times I really have to think about it is when I'm increasing, and I just really need to concentrate a bit more. But I'm enjoying being back on with this project. You would have thought that it would grow quite quick with the size of needles I'm using, but obviously it's brioche, so it takes longer. Don't know how much of that I will be getting done in the next week or so, but that's the main project that I am now working on. Now this is finished. So last little thing to say on weekly news or whatever is I've now started this book, and it's Divine Rivals. I think this is young adults, but I'm really enjoying this story. I'm already halfway through. It's a duology. I've got the second book waiting on my little book cart. And yeah, the magical elements in this are really quite good. So it reads as a historical fiction, kind of, but then it's got magical elements, which is quite a nice combination, really. And yeah, magical keyboards where they write to each other. So far, I'm very much enjoying the story. Not much more to say about that. And then I just thought I would just talk you through some of the things that are on my queue. I'm not going to go into lots of detail because there's lots of patterns on here. And if you do want to have a bit of a nosy at what's on my queue, what I've got coming up, you can also click the link in the description, and that will take you to my Ravelry page. Now, I've just told you about the Vanilla is the New Black, and that has a very interesting heel construction, which I'm very much looking forward to trying. Then I showed you that I have got my scraps and stuff in a bag together for my sea glass tea. I'm very excited to start that. But thinking, I've been watching, I think she's called Leah, and it's Ruby and Pearl podcast. I've just discovered her because Laura was talking about her, Laura Penrose, on her channel, and I'm really enjoying watching her content. She's very, very good to listen to if you haven't watched her before. She's got a very clear voice. She gives a lot of information. She's been garment knitting consistently for, she said, for about 7 or 8 years. And her garments are phenomenal. You know, she does a lot of, or has done in the last videos that I've been watching, quite a few elevated staples, I'd say. But she's been talking a lot about fit, and that's what has drawn me in. Constant watching of her channel, I mean, and devouring lots of her content, because she seems to have a similar fit issue problem as me, which is, I've been talking about a few times now, is where the neck rides up way too high on me and ends up touching me on a part of my neck that I don't like. So yeah, I'm interested to see what she's going to come up with next, and I'm keeping a close eye on what garments she is knitting, because I know that if she knits a garment that I like, it's highly likely that it's going to fit me in a similar way. So that's going to give me some inspiration for projects to do in the future. And she has been doing a few colour work roundups, colour work that aren't round yolks, which leads me back into the sea glass tee, which is a round yoke, because as you know, I've been modifying or trying to rectify, fix, whatever you want to say, my Mudo, which is also a round yoke. So while I've been looking at all these patterns and my yarns this week, I've been really thinking about construction, necklines, and choosing my projects, or trying to choose them a bit more mindfully, because I don't want to knit garments to then have to go back and fix them later down the line, or not be able to wear them because they're not comfortable on my body. And I don't like the neck when it hits me right here. So the sea glass tee by Wool and Pine is a round yoke. Now I still want to knit this pattern. I'm very enthused to do it. It's using up scraps, which I absolutely love. So I have been thinking about a few tweaks I want to do. I definitely would like to, if possible, put a few extra short rows in, and I'm also thinking about what band I want to do on the neckline. But you'll hear more about that when I get to it. Next in my list, I've got the Harlow sweater V-neck. Now, this sweater is knit at a 19 stitch gauge, but I am hoping, I need to do a swatch yet, to use my Isle yarn. Now, I was originally knitting with that, with the Calm Down cardigan, and in quite a bit of a way into that project, I realised that the yarns wasn't a good fit. The Isle yarn has quite a bit of alpaca in. I can't remember the exact makeup of the yarn, but I will talk about it again on the channel when I come to do it. But I'm hoping that the Harlow sweater V-neck I can make with a 19 stitch gauge. It's a DK weight yarn, so I'm sure I can get a 19 stitch gauge with that. And I just want to do a slightly different, it's a V-neck, so I know that's going to be good on me. I just don't, it has a folded 2x2 rib V-neck, and I don't want to do the fold. I just want to do it a single layer because I prefer that as well. But I was, I'm hoping that I'll finally have something for that stunning Isle yarn that I bought at the Woolly Good Gathering. Then I've also got the Ellie shirt, which I'm going to do with my afternoon tea yarn from Chromatic Yarns. The Cloudberry tea I want to do, which I've been wanting to do for ages, and I found some bright purple yarn in stash that I'm going to use for that, and I'm going to do a cap sleeve, so hopefully I can get that out of 2 skeins. That'll be fantastic. That has much more of an open neckline, so I'm hoping that's going to be a good fit. I've got the Tea of Dreams by Claire Jackson, which I'm going to use the Felt Fusion yarn that I'd got from Yarndale, and also I'm going to pair that with a West Yorkshire Spinners yarn. Again, I'll have to see how that goes with that one. That's an unusual construction. I'm looking forward to doing that. I've also decided that I would like to make the Lily top by Iris H. Again, the neckline looks good on this one. It's a summer t-shirt, and I'm thinking, and I may change my mind yet on this, I might buy some yarn for this at East Anglia Yarn Festival, which I'm going to. But at the moment, I'm thinking of trying to use 2 of my yarns, possibly from one of my Blue Fern Advents. Now, each of those I have got 400 grams. Yeah, because I had the 4 weekly Advents. I've got 4 100-gram skeins. And I think the beach one is a bit of a fade. And the apothecary one is green, purple, blue. Can't remember what the other colour is. Anyways, I'm hoping that I can decide out of those to pair 2 together to make that top. Then I have got a woolly knit cone of yarn, and it's a cotton, and I've showed you that before, I think. And I've decided that I want to try doing the skyline tee in that. Now that is a round neck, but I have seen it on Knitting Auntie's podcast, and it does seem to come down a bit more like a scoop. So I'm hoping that that one's going to be another fit for me. And then I have got my blueberry ice cream yarn, which is I think it's a 50-50 merino cotton from Knitting for Olive. And I've decided I want to do the Sakura by Knitting for Breakfast with that, which looks a very nice summer t-shirt with a little bit of a lace detail, but nothing too much. Then I've got the vest Pie by Moki Knits. And that I am thinking I'm going to use a DK weight that I've got from Yew Tree Yarncraft, and that is a colourway that she dyed up for me, which is called Molly Raven, and I've been wanting to use that for quite some time, but I realised the pattern I originally had paired that with, I didn't quite have enough yarn to make it as I wished, so I think that it will be a lovely way to use it in that cabled vest. And that's my top 10, so that's quite a few to be going on with. But if you want to have a further look, you can head over to my Ravelry page. And like I said, up until number 22 on my queue, I have actually got yarn for all them projects, which is quite mind-blowing. And I've still got yarns that I haven't paired to projects, but if, you know, that'll keep me going for quite some time, won't it? And makes me think I don't really need to be buying any yarn. But do we ever need more yarn? Of course, we always need more yarn, don't we? That's why we go to all these wonderful yarn festivals. I am at East Anglia in March. I am going on the Saturday, so if you're there and you spot me, feel free to come up and say hello. I can be a bit shy when I first meet people, but I do love meeting any viewers. It's nice to put a face to a YouTuber username, and there's always Discord if you want to come over and show your projects. I always like to see photos of what people's working on. And I think that's everything for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know if there's any content you'd like to see me put up on the channel. I think you all do enjoy watching these Friday knit chats. I am still hoping to get around to doing my striped summer tee beginner knit videos, but I just haven't had the time to do it yet, but hopefully that will be coming up soon. Have a lovely week, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.